Welcome to Channel AMEC, your insight to the Australian visa system. Good day everyone, my name is Carl Young, your online YouTube visa consultant. Are you interested about migrating to Australia? Why don't you consider to subscribe to my channel and turn on the bell on the side, so once we have all the updates and news, you'll be the first one of getting all the insight. Now, obviously we have updated the Queensland state nomination for skilled migration. Now it's term for the business visa. Obviously there has been a lot of interest coming into Queensland, especially we're aiming at a 2032 Olympics in Brisbane. Obviously there's a lot of exciting investment opportunity in Queensland, so let's jump in there to have a look. Obviously there's updates of the Migration Queensland website, which great. I've talked about this. I think they are ranked #1 at the moment from the feel and looks, and obviously you will be happy to actually come in here and check it out by yourself. Anyway, let's go into the business program. Okay, so the business program is not as complicated as what I have in the previous video had explained it in regards to skill migration. So the business program will follow by the 3 commonly used, which is also on my couple of videos ago. I've done an update or overview of all the business innovation visa, subclass 188, and they're there. So the 188A business innovation investor stream and the significant investor stream, they're all there. Unfortunately, the entrepreneurial stream is not open yet, but personally, in the previous debate, they were looking to take out of that 200 grand required investment from the fund or the VC. We thought that the entrepreneurial visa will then be much more like the SPO, but it seems to be with the criteria has been set out in New South Wales and Victoria and other states, it seems to be actually gonna be harder than before. So I doubt there will be further interest in regards to this one, but anyhow, see how it happens. At this point in time is not yet open, so we cannot do anything with it. So let's talk about the business innovation investor and significant investor stream. So let's jump into the first one, which is the business innovation stream. Now you may be familiar with this one, as I had previously and had done a lot of explanation in my previous video in this channel. Eligibility criteria is from what the Migration Queensland set out is about the same as what is required by the federal government. So business innovation stream, you need to demonstrate your commitment to Queensland, obviously, set up and establish and run and operate a business in Queensland, and must have net business and personal asset of at least 1.25 million, which is not that hard to be able to transfer in the next upcoming 3 years. That includes the money required to invest in the business, and also, you know, housing, schooling for kids, cars, foods and whatever. So that's a lot of people will meet that requirement anyway. If you don't even have this kind of money, obviously it will be too hard for you. Anyway, must invest 1 or 2 qualifying business in Queensland after being granted a visa, and business investment at least 400,000 if you want to be in Brisbane or Gold Coast, or 300,000, 100,000 less if you want to go regional Queensland. I will say pick the 400,000 in Brisbane and Gold Coast is better, because you got more traffic. You know, you're talking about business, you need traffic. If you go to somewhere there's no traffic, there's no need, obviously you need to do your own research on that one. Now, additional requirements, let's have a look. Export business must develop international market for Queensland products. So you can no longer take wine from other state and using the Queensland port to export those wine. It has to be coming from Queensland directly. So you need to check out whatever it is, the resource that's available in Queensland, and do your own research. And if you want to do import, generally import business will not be accepted unless the import product are highly innovative, advanced technology, and currently unavailable in Queensland. So again, don't import things like pen, rubbers, all these general stuff. But if it's something very unique, for example, some sort of technology or chip or whatever, in order to be assembled in Queensland, then that will be considered. You should provide value-adding servicing per product, such as custom design, product assembly, installation, as what I have said, testing, repair, maintenance. For example, like importing air conditioning units parts, which will be considered. Well, but that will be a huge business, and not just 400,000 can actually take. You probably need to invest a lot more, but that's something that you can consider with. Property development business will not be accepted. Okay, so no more property development, no more. So, but there is still a room for building industry, renovation industry, but you cannot just come in here, buy a land, subdivide, and sell it. That's no more acceptable anymore. Now, process, very simple. Get all this done, put an EOI, select Queensland, and it's as normal as it seems, same as previously. Get your application in, business proposal. Sure, there's a required form by the Migration Queensland, and pay the application fee. Done, and lodge the visa. That's it. Okay, no Malaysia extension. You can extend visa for extra 2 years. If that 4 years or 5 years is not enough, then you can actually apply for extension there. Already hold visa business innovation, either you had at least 3 years. So that's the criteria required to transfer into PR. You need to be there 3 years and be nominated, and that's it. So there's not much difference there. It's required by the federal government, so they stay with the standards. So that's very good, rather than compared to Victoria, which required to go into high tech, any tech kind of tech business, which 400,000 is not enough for tech business, and I think this is very reasonable for Queensland, very competitive. Now, moving to investor stream. So investor stream have moved from 1.5 mil to 2.5, and instead of going into state treasury, now required to go into a management fund. So again, it's a 5 years visa, and you need to invest for 3 years. The eligibility is the same, and demonstrate that you had genuine commitment for sure. And of course, you need to get more money, because 2.5 is going into the management fund, and another half mil for your living. So at least 3 mil to be transferred already, including that 2.5, as I said, going to the management fund. They call it compliant investments, because the compliant investment do have some sort of framework, which goes to 20% to a VC, 30% to a management fund, and 50% to other balanced investment. I've done a specific video on this one. You might want to check that out. For the federal requirement now, that these balanced investment fund cannot go into residential property. Cannot. Okay, it can go to commercial, but generally you would like to talk to a management fund provider to actually manage all this together. Now, you can do this individually and independently for 20%, 30%, 50%. But look, it's gonna be very hard for someone who's not familiar with the financial framework in Australia to manage all this. So I will strongly advise to find a fund provider to do this, and holding 3 years, then you will be able to transfer into permanent residency. Now, application process, as simple as it is, same as before. Put in EOI, and then you get invited, and then you submit all these documents required, pay the fee for Migration Queensland, and then done, and lodge your visa. So that's as simple as that. It's much easier and explained required, and there's no detailed, complicated checklist required. Although the business migration is actually more complicated than skill migration. But anyway, the website required is quite simple. It's just show the money. Now the next one is SIV, significant investment stream. Again, it's the same. It's just bump it from 2.5 to 5 mil. Everything else is the same. Now bear in mind the video that I've done previously, the 1AA investor stream and significant investor stream, the differences is that the 5 mil, the significant investor stream, 5 mil can come from the inherited assets, given assets, or income made from your wage and salaries over the past years. Now the investor stream, the 2.5, can only show that 2.5 are made from net profited invested items or businesses. It cannot come from inherited assets, or it cannot come from your wage directly. Okay, so that's the differences there. And then again, hold for 3 years and get permanent residency. The process is as simple as the same, and you can extend it if required. So that's it for the business visas for Queensland. It's basically, from what I see, it stays as low as the limited requirement, the standard from the federal government. So it doesn't go beyond like how New South Wales and Victoria had done, which make the investment visa, business visa, much harder than any other state. So Queensland for investors, I think, is the key to go. I mean, you can compare that with Western Australia. Western Australia does require additional investment for the business innovation, for property and things like that. In Victoria, it's just crazy. They want anyone with the money to go into tech sector. That's gonna be too hard, and need people to prove they have bachelor degree. If not, they need to have at least 3 years of experiences in whatever the field, target sector. But Queensland, no, Queensland stays the same. So I think it will be very competitive. I think for business and investor wise, South Australia and Queensland will be the best way to go. What is your thought? Why don't you leave a comment right down below, and I'll see you next video. Goodbye.